Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point. The network is the American Family Radio Talk Network. Just another reminder, we'll have the One Cry Prayer Summit tonight on the National Day of Prayer, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time, live right here on the AFR Talk Network. Erwin Lutzer, Nancy Lee DeMoss, Crawford Loritz, worship, scripture reading, prayer, worship led by Meredith Andrews and Matthew West. It's going to be a live participatory radio event tonight on the AFR Talk Network as we continue to seek God's face for revival, for awakening in America. Now, Rob, let's grab clip number 1. I've got a column up today on Rightly Concerned, or actually One News Now. Sorry about that. Our new name for where we're posting our columns, onenewsnow.com. And it's the first of 3 columns. It's kind of a series of columns that I'm going to be writing over the next week or so on the issue of Muslim immigration. And I talked today in I believe what I've been recommending is that what we need to do is we need to suspend Muslim immigration altogether. No more Muslim immigration into the United States, period. No more Muslim military service. We need to stop the practice of Muslims serving in the United States military. Just think about Major Hassan shooting up Fort Hood. And we need to stop the building of mosques. And I originally was going to try to deal with all 3 of these in one column. I was writing it early this morning. I got started. I realized, no, I'm going to have to just stick probably with one. This column came out to about 900 words as it was. Going to have to stick with one topic at a time. But this is what I'm recommending. This is my position. I hope we can get a conversation started about this, that we need to suspend Muslim immigration. We need to suspend the practice of Muslims being allowed to serve in the United States military. And we need to stop the building of mosques. And I'll talk about that when we get to it. Now, it's interesting to me to see the way the momentum is beginning to shift. You know, I write about the fact that back in 2009, when I was first bringing these things into the conversation, this was in connection with the Fort Hood shooting, I was a lone voice crying in the wilderness. I didn't find anybody else out there that was saying the same thing. But now, in the wake of what's happened in Boston, we know now that 2 of the students were in violation of our immigration policy. So this has not just to do with the issue of Islamic immigration, but immigration in general. One of the men that's being charged with helping to cover up the bombing, they went to the guy's apartment, they took his backpack, they threw it in a landfill. Authorities were able to find it and pull it out. They found the emptied firecracker containers. That's where they got the gunpowder for the thing, apparently from fireworks, emptied them out and put them in the pressure cooker and all that kind of thing. But these 2 guys helped the conspiracy to conceal the crime. And one of them was allowed back into the country on a student visa, even though he wasn't a student. He had flunked out of the school he was going to, kicked out of the school altogether, and got let back in the country. The other guy was here on a student visa. He wasn't going to class, so he wasn't meeting the terms of his student visa either, and 2 of these helped to cover up this grotesque, this hideous bombing of the American people, doing it all in the name of Allah and for their good buddy Dzhokhar. Now, it's interesting to me, in the wake of all of this, the number of people that have come out and that are also talking about making changes with regard to Islamic immigration. I mentioned Andy McCarthy. He's the prosecutor that put the blind sheikh, the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. He's advocating we suspend immigration from Muslim-majority countries. Frank Gaffney, Center for Security Policy, has said the same thing. I'll talk about him again when we talk about mosques. We had Laura Ingraham on her show saying we need to suspend Muslim immigration. We've had Senator Rand Paul. We have had Senator Marco Rubio saying, look, we need to re-examine extending student visas to Muslim males. We got to take a look at that because of what's happening. Now, here's John McCain. John McCain, Mr. Amnesty, let them all come. Here's John McCain on Fox News yesterday afternoon, and listen to what John McCain, Mr. Amnesty himself, is now saying about Islamic immigration.
Maybe as part of overall immigration reform, we should look at the process of who's allowed into this country, under what circumstances, what is their situation and background, particularly from countries that have histories such as Dagestan and Chechnya and others, where there's been significant influence of radical Islamic extremism. I think that might be appropriate as we move forward with immigration reform.
So that's John McCain. We need to look at the process of who's allowed into this country, particularly, he says, in places where there's been significant influence of radical Islamic extremism. Try all 57 Islamic countries, Senator McCain. I mean, Morocco is supposed to be one of those moderate Islamic nations out there. Their leadership has come out this week and said, look, criticism of Islam is unacceptable. So that's getting ready to be a crime in Morocco, which is supposed to be a moderate Islamic state. Now, the question comes up whether this is constitutional. Is it constitutional to ban Islamic immigration? And the answer is it absolutely is constitutionally permissible. There is nothing at all wrong with banning Muslim immigration. It is permitted by the Constitution. There is no right, there's no ethical right, there's no moral right, there's no legal right, and there is no constitutional right for anybody anywhere to immigrate into the United States. Marco Rubio has said exactly that thing earlier this week. And let's not forget that according to Article 1, Section 8, establishing rules for immigration is exclusively the province of Congress. This is not up to the Department of Homeland Security. It's not up to President Obama. The Constitution gives to Congress, this is one of its powers of action, Article 1, Section 8, to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. That's one of the powers that we have delegated to Congress. We didn't delegate that power to the executive branch. The job of the executive branch is to take the policies that are established by Congress when it comes to immigration and implement them, execute them. They're not at liberty to rewrite them or to ignore the ones they don't like, which this current administration is doing. But we also have the Supreme Court weighing in on this and saying, yes, Congress can do this. Congress can ban anybody that they want. This is from Kleindienst v. Mandel from 1972, just to show you the depth of my commitment to you as this listening audience. I was reading a Supreme Court ruling from 1972. That's how much I care about you. That's how much I care about I'm just kidding here. I was reading this about 5 o'clock this morning. Now, this Mandel guy was a Marxist ideologue, and he was prohibited immigration into the United States. Here's what the Supreme Court said in the ruling. This went all the way to the Supreme Court. The power to exclude aliens is inherent in sovereignty, necessary for maintaining normal international relations, and defending the country against foreign encroachments and dangers. The court, without exception, has sustained Congress's plenary power to make rules for the admission of aliens and to exclude those who possess those characteristics which Congress has forbidden. Over no conceivable subject is the legislative power of Congress more complete than it is over the admission of aliens. The power of Congress to exclude aliens altogether from the United States or to prescribe the terms and conditions under which they may come to this country is settled. Bottom line, Congress can ban Muslim immigration, and they should.